Everyone, welcome to our Wednesday deep dives. Today, we're going to be talking about the importance and the power and the effects of air quality on you, the wonderful human being you are, and how our air quality and the air we breathe can greatly affect not only our mental health, how our brain functions, but overall how we show up in the world. So welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Aaron Mathias. It's a pleasure to have you all joining on. We do this every Wednesday at 5:30, where we take a deep dive with our collaborators, our partners, and other amazing human beings who create powerful, exciting products and services. And we take a deep dive to take a look at why they build and create what they create, why they do what they do, what makes them tick. And today we're going to be talking to Helen from AirDoctor. Yes, AirDoctor. We're always on exploration. We have a problem here basically at Human Garage. We love to find amazing things that can help optimize people's lives, help optimize how they show up in the world. And because of the nature of what we do, traveling the world, sharing fashionable maneuvers, we get a lot of opportunity to connect to amazing individuals. And we had the opportunity to meet Helen from AirDoctor, and it was an amazing experience to learn about the heavyweight importance of air quality, especially inside our own homes. So we're going to be taking a deep dive with Helen from AirDoctor in just a moment. We're waiting for them to log into our live and join us on this conversation. And then once they do, but before we do that, I want to go over a few housekeeping things. If any of you out there have ever thought of taking your fascial maneuvers, your skill sets to a whole new level, to a whole new world, then my friends, you need to join our coaching program. Our coaching program is going to take you into an incredibly deep dive into the function of fascial maneuvers, how you can apply it not only to partners and yourself, but get a more concise understanding of how to do all of these things. So join it. You can go over to humangarage.net and also join our private community. Again, my name is Aaron Mathias. If you want to follow me personally, go over to pulseoflife.co or Aaron Mathias, The Purpose, and you can have deeper conversations there. Grab yourself some amazing skincare. And here we go. Deep dive every Wednesday that we do. For those of you just joining, again, my name is Aaron Mathias from Human Garage. We take a deep dive with people who create amazing, incredible products and services. And today, we're going to take a deep dive with Helen from AirDoctor to find out why the heck air quality is so important.
Hi, so nice to see
Hello.
you again.
Likewise. How's everything going?
Good. Beautiful day here in Los Angeles. The smoke is, we think the smoke's clearing, but
Okay.
it's the big question actually.
Yes. Well, that being said, we got a chance to hang out with you when we were in LA last time and actually put AirDoctor to a bit of the test with air quality, and within moments it cleared up the space. But do you mind diving a little bit deeper into the importance of air quality and its effects on inflammation?
Oh, sure. I mean, look, like indoor air can be 100 times more polluted than outdoor air, and people just don't understand that. What happens is all the, like, I'm going to have a road outside me here, and all the pollution from outside comes in. And then when we're back and when we're inside our homes or our office buildings or wherever we are, the air kind of gets trapped in a box. And when we breathe, we're huge air consumers. And so we, as humans, we're breathing 3,000 gallons of air a day. And the whole purpose to breathe is to cleanse and to detox. And if that air is polluted, you're really doing like a disservice to your body. And to your point, it can cause, all kinds of inflammation, gut health issues. And and with that being said, people aren't even breathing as they should be breathing to begin with, and so we're all kind of running around holding our breath. And it's important that the air we breathe is as clean and pure as possible.
I mean, it's pretty wild to think about, actually, because we don't consider, the effects of our own homes, like what's going on inside them. All the from mattresses to sheets to dressers to whatever the thing is sitting in our house, and then we're doing all these great maneuvers to release stress from the body. We're practicing breath work, and we're like, yeah, and we don't even realize, like, oh, wait a second, my home that should be clean is actually filled with a crap load. I'll keep it clean with the language. A crap load of toxins.
Yeah, I mean, so everything we bring in, I mean, unless you're really specific about not buying non-toxic everything, and you have to be really plugged in to make sure that your like household or your environment is 100% non-toxic. It's really hard to do. Everything from our carpet to our drywall to our what we're cooking with, like just a gas stove, for instance, can really pollute our air. And I always like to bring this up because everybody goes to your stove, you turn it on, you put on a pot of water to boil, and there's so many high BTU like professional stoves out there. They're the industry standard now. And how many of us really like turn on the vent every time we boil a pot of water, and all those gas fumes are just pumping into our house. And that's why, if you have an air doctor at home, it's so great at like letting every time I go in and cook, I'm one of those people that shouldn't be allowed in the kitchen. My air doctor is going red, and I'm pumping gas fumes into my house. Also, people that have gas fireplaces, that sort of thing. So that's really dangerous. And as we learned just recently here, I mean, when I met you, it was really on the heels of the fires here in Los Angeles. Like, why did everything burn so quick? It's because everything in our homes is combustible.
Yeah.
And everything, there's so much. We just have, like, from our couches to our rugs to our tables to our televisions to like everything you can think about. It's so flammable, and all that stuff off gases into our air. And you really need to take into consideration making sure the air that you're breathing is as pure as possible, because we're just filling our homes with contaminants.
So, what I love that this conversation is going in the direction of like looking at the toxins in the home. But just out of curiosity, how did you become involved in this quest
Sure.
for clean air, purified air, not
Yeah.
only in the outside world but inside? Like, how did you come about this?
So I'll talk about it. I mean, I used to work with the founder of AirDoctor, like in the beginning of my career, like 20 or so years ago. And I segued and I left and I went into the beauty business. And I literally was like such a part of the problem. I was like mainlining fragrances, phthalates, this type of stuff every single day. And I found myself in my early 40s, and I had severe osteoporosis. My bones started breaking. I broke my left pelvis. 3 months
Wow.
later, I broke my right pelvis. 2 weeks later, I broke my rib cage. And I learned, and I think I was like 41 or 42, that I was postmenopausal, and my bones were crumbling. And the only thing that I could really kind of attach it to was my toxic burden. And so, I made some really significant changes. And here, look, I'm an ultra runner, I'm a marathon runner, I'm an athlete, I'm thin, I eat healthy, I do all the things, and my body fell apart. And so I reached out to Peter, and who's the founder of AirDoctor, and I was like, and what should I do? And he was like, you need to purify your air, you need to purify your water. And I made this concerted effort to really remove my toxic burden. And the more and more, and to make a long story short, through that journey, I ended up like rejoining AirDoctor. And I was like, we need to educate people on
Mm.
the importance of clean air quality, because like I myself, happy to say 10 years later, I've, reversed my severe osteoporosis, and I'm out running mountains, doing the things, living life. But
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
a journey. It was a journey to get here. And just what I've went through and what I've learned, I just feel so passionate People are really getting sick behind this stuff. I mean, women are having issues with fertility, so are men. People are going through early menopause. Young girls are going through puberty earlier. And, they're finding all kinds of horrible things in our body. And where you can make sure you can remove your toxic burden from things like air pollution, you should.
Yeah, it makes sense, but again, it's something I think that is easily overlooked because it, I mean, it's not something that is commonly thought about. I mean, it's becoming more common because people are bringing awareness to it. But again, we're typically taught like, hey, the way of pure health is what you're putting inside your body, your attitude, how you respond to life, how you handle stress, things like that. And I love it, the fact that you spell this out so clearly that hey, I was doing all these great things, I was doing all these right things, but I still had this whole collection of extra stressors from what I was breathing in to even my water I was consuming. And those are two essential ingredients to the human. You need to drink some water and you probably need to breathe. But we so easily forget them. So I think it's such an important thing to remind that. And it is interesting. And I think also that even though it's something so essential, how easily we actually put junk in our air,
Yeah.
considering that we we need it to function, and the fact of breathing in and pulling in these toxins has an effect from everything from anybody out there trying to get pregnant, men fertility, women's
Yeah.
fertility, and yet we still we'll just throw a bunch of crap in the air and hopefully no one bothers it.
Well, I mean, I think people just don't really realize what indoor air pollution feels like. So I can connect
Mm,
the dots, like I often when I travel, you get a headache. You feel like your resistance is down. You feel congested. Perhaps you're having a cold. Your throat is scratchy. Your skin gets like you have skin irritation, like hives, you get scratchy. Like all of these things can be a result of indoor air pollution. And it's really funny. I always tell the story. My team and I were at a big trade show, a health trade show in Austin, and we were staying at this hotel, and this in this old like 60s, just dilapidated hotel, and the
yeah.
air quality in the rooms were so bad that we actually took units from our trade show and brought it into rooms because we had headaches, we didn't feel well. And once you really experience, I think number one, sleeping in a pure air environment, it's really hard to go back from that. And if you're tuned into your health, when you're like hopping in an Uber and they have those tree air conditioning units, you're like, oh, I
Yeah.
mean, that stuff is so bad for it. That's a volatile organic compounds. And these things are hormone disruptors, and these tiny little particles are the ones that break the blood-brain barrier and can be really, really damaging to our health.
Yeah. And then every time you're sitting in an Uber, your Uber driver is giving you the gift of
Of
have some
contaminated
brain
air.
damage, have some brain damage on your way to your next destination. Uh, so do you guys ever, I mean, do you get like pushback when you talk to people about uh, the subject of air quality or of air purification? Because I know there's so many people who say, yeah, whatever, I have an air filter. Hey, whatever. Yeah, I take care of my thing. But most air filters, and I only found this out because of getting to meet you guys, and also I love to do research, so I was aware of some of it. But not all air filters or air systems are created equal.
No, they're not. And so, I think that number one, people really like, I mean, like my generation, right? Like I grew up in the 70s. We drank out of the water hose. We were running around. We were latchkey kids, I mean, nothing could, get us down until like myself, my bones started to crumble and I started to break, and people are having these real serious health issues. So many kids, so many women are having hormonal issues because we're lighting fancy candles, we think they're good for us. We're using our cosmetics, our dry shampoos, our aerosol, like we're inhaling all these volatile organic compounds. We're cleaning with cleaning products that are really having adverse effects on our health. And it's just super important that we're taking this into consideration. And another thing that has been really like brought to the forefront lately is microplastics.
Yeah.
Microplastics, you don't just drink microplastics, you're breathing microplastics. And the correlation between the microplastics you're inhaling is also really, really bad for our cognitive health, our children's, our fertilities. I mean, basically, we're like inhaling petroleum. And so, I mean, as we all know, we don't have the healthiest environment or the healthiest society. And I think that pure air is foundational for really, really good health. And it's really easy. It's super easy to make just some quick changes at home to make your sure. Like we spend 90% of the time in our homes in our bedrooms. And so I always say, like, if you're going to purify your air, first of all, purify the air in your kid's bedroom. Let's give their little lungs a good chance to develop,
Yeah.
right? And then, and then purify your own air in your bedroom.
No, is it, you mentioned like microplastics and the breathing that in. Is that a byproduct of the fumes that you're taking in from the microplastics, or is it like little actual
And no, I mean,
microplastic particles that get released that people are sucking in?
so there's microplastics and there's nanoplastics. So, I mean, they're really tiny particles. And so think of all the dust and the pet dander and the size of the stuff that we're breathing in our houses, right? So these tiny nanoparticles are the ones that are the most dangerous. And and they, like I said, it's anything under particulate matter 2.5. It will break the blood barrier. So all of that goes into your bloodstream, and it really can affect our internal organs, our cognitive health, our heart health. I can go on and on. So that's why it's really important. You were asking me, all air purifiers aren't created equal. Like you could run to the hardware store, you can pick up a HEPA purifier. That's only going to remove particles down to zero point 0.3 microns. It's the particles smaller than that that's the problem. So when you're
Yeah.
looking for air purification, you really want to make sure two things. So number one, that it removes particles down to 0.003 microns. That is a very tiny particle, and that's what you need to combat viruses, these volatile organic compounds, that sort of stuff. And then secondarily, you need to have a very thick, substantial carbon filter. And it was a really good lesson here in the Los Angeles fires. We had two cities
Yeah.
burn. And it's not like forests are burning, we have cars burning, we have, pharmacies burning. We had like, I mean, two complete cities burned down. And from that, the volatile organic, the carbon filter really became very important because the air quality index isn't measuring volatile organic compounds, and we know that there was tons of it in the air for weeks after the fire still
Hmm.
when they're remediating. And these volatile organic compounds are the most dangerous. And so I think when you look at things like um, bone disease, cancer, stuff like this. It's the contaminants you can't see that are doing the most damage to people. And unfortunately, you can eat as healthy as you want and do all the great stuff, but if you don't have a foundation for health, you're kind of working against yourself.
Yeah. Well, the idea of unseen being where it's at. I this is going way back in time. Back to 9/11, I used to live in New York City in another lifetime, and I had, worked in the film industry and was in all these kind of things. And I remember when the towers came down, I had actually volunteered to go in and help, and to go in and like I was like maybe like 2 days after, 3 days after everything come down, I was in there with volunteers, like going into the actual wreckage site, bringing supplies and stuff like that. And I remember so vividly that it was, well, when it happened, I was also close by and watched building number 7 fall and watching all those people covered in ash and stuff like that. But days later, when we're in there trying to help, it's perfectly blue sky.
Yeah.
The sun is out. People are walking around, no masks on, not protecting from the breathe. I was walking around without any kind of breathing protection, walking through this dust, carrying stuff around, and was in there for like a 24-hour period, and I started to feel weird and strange. And by the time I left there, the next 3, almost 4 days, I was out of commission. My throat became so intensely like sore, infected. My whole respiratory system was felt weird. And then later on, obviously, they find out that all these firefighters, all these first responders who were down there, from breathing in this dust and these particles and these particulates. And the thing is, a lot of that was, oh yeah, you visually saw some stuff on the ground, but you're like, hey, it's not. I'm walking around. It's not floating everywhere, but yet it is. It's all there. It's the little particles that you can't see or notice. So you kind of like throw caution to the wind. And so I
Yeah.
think it's so cool that you're bringing this idea up of these nanoparticles, these little things that even though you're in the safe environment of your home, what you consider safe, you still have stuff not only there, but going on around your environment outside.
Yeah, and I think that I mean, and not to, since I actually like have come back and I started I joined AirDoctor like 6 years ago. The problem is that when people really need serious air purification, you can't get it.
Yeah.
And I counted this up the other day. I thought it was pretty interesting. So since I've been, in my role here at the company, we had the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment.
Yeah.
That air pollution, it covered 15 states and basically
Wow.
like 15% of the United States of America. And also, then directly after that, and this is in 2023, we had the big Canadian wildfires. The Canadian wildfires affected 120 million people on the East Coast. And then recently here, I mean, there's been more in
Yeah.
between. You've got hurricanes, you've got stuff like that. And then we had the disaster here in Los Angeles. And when something like that happens, you can't, it's not like you can run down and pick up an air purifier. Like the 5 they have in stock down at Home Depot, you're not going to get it. Here,
Yeah.
and it's really funny that you guys call me the like, air purifier Robin Hood. Thank you. Like during that, I really love that. That made my heart smile because during the fires here in Los Angeles, we put 20,000 units into the community within the first few days. Like we were
Wow.
on the street, we put stuff into the community. We brought trucks in. We had commercial units. We brought them into Los Angeles. We were literally loading up semi trucks and just parking them on the street and letting people know on social media because people could not get relief.
Yeah.
And look, like our air quality is bad enough as it is in our
Ye-
homes with all our
Yeah.
cleaning, like all this stuff, but then add in some disaster then that's inevitably going to happen. You really want to make sure that you just have one of these, and if not one for the rooms in which you sleep, just to make sure that you're good.
Yeah. So when if someone's going to look for to edit, I know obviously we can't control walking around outside that much,
Sure.
but again, stuff happens. We have to deal with it. We have to find ways to mitigate it as much as possible. But for our home, at least, we have a pretty great bandwidth to control that environment. From our water, it's kind of funny in the chat. I see people talking about like, yeah, yeah, take care of your water, and talking about some water devices as well, which is great because yes, water, air, water, air, water, air. So if someone's going to come into the fold and add air quality filtration, you already kind of detailed a few things to kind of look out for, but
Sure.
and putting maybe a unit in your bedroom. But what if they go to AirDoctor website? What should they grab? What should they ideally? What's an ideal scenario?
Let's talk about it. So the one great thing about AirDoctor is you can pop off the front cover and you can really see what you're not breathing. So you
Yeah,
get a lot of, and you get a lot of like, just it's very gratifying to be like, oh my God, this thing is really working. Because within a
yeah,
week,
yeah.
you're like, wow, I would be breathing that crap.
Just
And
a just
so
a
another
quick
thing,
Helen.
yeah,
Just a quick side note in there. So we were in Austin, Texas, and it's funny because we now wherever we show up, we ship our AirDoctor to a company accompanying us, which is hysterical. We travel with shower filters. Now we're shipping the AirDoctor to meet us so we can monitor air quality. But it's funny, even someone cooking in the other room who was cooking a little bit too high heat started to smoke. The AirDoctor picked up on it and immediately, like the little light on the front changed and it kicked in. And it's like, oh, cool. it's
I
it's
think I think think it's so great that you bring that up because the one great thing about AirDoctor is it got a little light on the front. It's really easy. You don't have to count anything, think about anything. It just lets you know when something's amiss in your air. It like turns red, it turns up, it kind of
Yeah,
like
it's
makes a
cool.
commotion, and it goes through the cycles from orange and then back to blue. And when it's blue, your air is clean. And what I really love about it is it really tunes you into the behavior in your home, and you start to learn. Like I know. Every time I blow dry my hair, when you put heat to any sort of shampoo or something, it off gases. It makes my air doctor go off in my bedroom. You know, the same thing. You vacuum, it kicks up stuff, the air doctor goes off. Or maybe you bring something new into the house, like my husband loves his sage and his incense and all this stuff. Like that really pisses off the air doctor. You know, so you really learn what's contaminating your air. And so, and sometimes like you're sleeping and the air doctor kicks on and you're like, wow, what's going on? And like the window could be open or something could be amiss. And I think like, especially after situations, like they really work overtime and they let you know if something's wrong with your air at home. And for people looking at the site, like I think that I always like if you're gonna pick one air doctor, I always say go with the Air Doctor 3500. It's our first unit. It's our most popular unit. It's got handles on the side. You can carry it from room to room. It's a really good size unit. And then if you have smaller rooms, we have smaller units like the Air Doctor 1000 and 2000. For instance, I have an Air Doctor 2000 in my bedroom. You don't need overkill. You just need to turn the air over in your room 4 or 5 times an hour, and it's kind of based on square footage. Then we have a super big one, and I think that's one of the, so gave you guys one of these, the Air Doctor 5500. Like that unit, you can roll around. It's great. I have it on my ground floor. It's 970 square feet, and that is a very big, powerful unit that
Mm,
is great for large spaces. If you're having like, if you're doing yoga, if you're working out, if you're doing body work, breath work, really great unit to have. So ideally, you want to have one in the rooms where you are and different sizes based on where you need to be. So, first and foremost, like I said, your kid's bedroom, then your bedroom. And then if you have a area in the home where people gather, I'd put one there also.
okay. Have to actually make a unit that you can stick on a backpack and carry around with you,
I
you
might be
can pop
working
on
on
like
that.
a okay,
I
good.
might be working on it. So many people travel with their air
Yeah,
doctors, right? Like I have a lot of people that travel with the Air Doctor 2000s. We have a ton of requests. And so like a personal air purifier you can throw in your car, you can bring to your office, you could like take to a hotel room, maybe have it crank for a couple of hours before you go to bed. Like so we're definitely taking that into consideration. So I love that you brought that up. But I think that like we're talking about water so much in this chat, and I just want to re-bring up for people that just joined. We're breathing 3,000 gallons of air a day. And if
yeah,
you were going to drink 3,000 gallons of water a day, you would want to make sure that that was really pure water. So, and when you breathe, your breath is going through all the cells in your body. And so when that's contaminated, that's what you're doing. You're contaminating your body. And and our body does filter, but it's not, we weren't made to filter out some of these man-made VOCs and
yeah.
stuff that's in our atmosphere.
No, and I think our bodies are pretty resilient, which I mean, God bless our bodies,
Yeah.
how they're able to process things, and they're so resilient, and they can deal with stuff for quite a while. But it to me, it always comes back to, hey, wait a second, if I don't have to deal with this extra stressor, why the heck would I continue to do that? And if I can solve that issue very simply and effectively and have something that's taking another stressor off, lets my body rest and recuperate better, like having an air doctor, proper filtration down to our air, to our water, it becomes like, it's almost like one of those things that's almost a no-brainer. It's like, hey, these are essential because
Yeah.
I think you would agree with this because of your own health experiences, and you can fill it in even more. But if you take away the stressors of those things in your body and you can sleep better, and just that simple action of being able to sleep better and wake up refreshed gives you more energy to get through your day, accomplish your goals, do all the great things.
Yeah, I mean, like toxic burden's real. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a real thing. And I myself went through it. Like, I wasn't like, hey, I'm going to get osteoporosis and have both of my pelvises break. And,
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't my plan at 40 years old. And like I said, I'm athletic. I'm an ultra marathoner. I do all the things, I eat well and I've always been very healthy. But my environment at that time, I was just in a very toxic environment. And so I think that there's some foundational things we can do: air, water, the food you eat, like a really great, and making sure that you're moving, right? And that you're moving to release toxins and all the great work that you guys do, I mean, by, the fascia work and the breath work and all the stuff that we're doing. Like, you don't want to be releasing all these toxins from the body and then going in and repolluting it
Yeah.
with contaminated air.
Yeah. I just did all this great work, and then 10 minutes later, you're like, wait,
Get
more
into
toxins
that
back in.
Uber. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
don't get in the Uber.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on the roof with your air doctor strapped to your back and breathing in. I found this interesting. So, and talking about kind of links to health, there's even links, correct? And correct me if I'm wrong. There's even links back to neurodegenerative. I can't speak English. Neurodegenerative is the word I'm looking for. Disease, and brain issues like Alzheimer's, right? Have
Yeah,
been
no,
is
it's a big problem. Like if you're living within like here, for instance, I have a major highway right
yeah,
outside here, and
yeah,
most people live within a mile or two of a major highway. There's studies that show that anybody that lives within 2 miles of a major highway has an increased risk for Alzheimer's. Also, kids like high school students, and it can really affect their cognitive abilities, their learning abilities. They have lower IQ scores, lower test scores. And so this pollution around where we live is really, it can lead to Alzheimer. Cognitive decline is very, very linked to air pollution. And so it's cool. We're about to do this like blue zone thing where we're gonna make this neighborhood in New York like a blue zone area. We're giving everybody air purifiers. We're gonna study them, follow them, so they can have pure air in this process. And so it's really sad. You see people that, they just live by a highway and they're at higher risk for cognitive decline and Alzheimer's. And also, I have to point out, and I happen to be really passionate about this topic, so thanks for bringing it up. Women, I mean, 2/3 of Alzheimer's patients are women. And so you have women whose hormones are being disrupted by all these phthalates and all this crap in the air that are all hormonal disruptors. And women are, 1 out of 5 women are going to get Alzheimer's. That is an insane statistic when you think
wow,
about that. Like when you compare it to like 1 out of 8 that's going to get breast cancer. So, these things, like our environment's so important. And, it's not something like you have to take every day. It's not a supplement you need to get in with, it's just you plug it in, you change your filters once a year and you're good. So I think that for myself, I really get so cranky when I travel because I'm like air spoiled now, and I really, for both air and water, I'm really tuned in to like, this isn't for me. Like I want to
mhm.
go home. I want to sleep in my bedroom. I want to book the room. That's the wellness room that has air purifiers. Like I'm thinking about it, so yeah.
Just taking a moment to kind of reflect on that. It always kind of cracks me up in a way, when you sit back and think about it. Humans are such fascinating creatures. Like we have such a divine spark and like pulsation of this life force in us, and we have this ability to create magic, create amazing inventions, create things you could. I don't know where it even comes from sometimes, the ideas that people get. But at the same token, in that brilliance, we also create these kind of crazy little issues for ourselves that impede. And I wonder if it's like some part of ourselves, like how you have sometimes those self-destructive tendencies, or at least maybe that's just me speaking of like where you self-sabotage yourself. But I feel like humans in general, like, hey, let's make this really great thing, but then let's put a bunch of toxins in the air as we're solving this one problem to give ourselves another problem to navigate. It's such a bizarre. uh, combination. And then we have brilliant minds. The founder is called, his name is Peter, correct?
So Peter Spiegel, I mean, we've been making air purifier. We've been in the air purifier business for over 20 years, and it's a great story about Peter.
Yeah.
He was, born and raised in New York, and he really suffered from every allergy, and he has a house in Austin, Texas. And as you know, they have cedar fever. He went to every allergy doctor. I mean, he practices functional medicine and meditation. And I mean, he's that guy, right? And so I think that, he really set out to make something for him. And when we used to sell air purifiers to the big box retailers, they would just squeeze the cost out, and they would
Uh,
squeeze all the performance out of the air purifiers. And finally, I mean, he was just like, enough. Like, he made AirDoctor. It's called AirDoctor for a reason, to really fight things like, allergies, these VOCs, and make an affordable, like, hospital grade air purifier with a carbon, the ultra HEPA, the great KDAR ratings, a sealed system, the indicator light, that was actually affordable, that meets the efficacy. And the one thing that, I mean, I know we really went into this when we first met, all of our products are verified by science. Like,
yeah.
we have all of our data on the website. We're really, it's one of our values. We're rooted in science. And so we have to have our HEPA filters tested all the time. And then also, I was talking about carbon earlier. There is no like testing or certifications for carbon filters in air purifiers. And so people like spray carbon on a piece of paper and like stick it in an air purifier to pass it off as carbon. So there's no regulation. So we just also need to be really educated. You want a thick, dense carbon filter in your machine. If it doesn't have one, then you're not going to be dealing with the contaminants you can't see, right? So
Uh,
super important that your air purifier has carbon in it.
well, I remember actually asking you one of the first questions I asked you, and we don't have to mention the name. That doesn't have to be named. But I was like, hey, these certain filters on the market are labeled as like the most powerful and best, and then they're actually not. And you answered this question so specifically, why, for me, without, you know, trash talking. Can you name why? And then I think the follow up to that is what, again, to reiterate to people what to specifically look for.
Sure. So it's really important. You want your HEPA filter to filter down to 0.003 microns. Air purifiers are not created equal. The HEPA standard is zero point 0.3 microns. That is a big fat particle. And so you really want to make sure that there are, like, an AirDoctor, and there's a couple more really, really great air purifier companies that remove down to 0.003 microns. That is very important. 0.1 is not going to cut it. 0.2 is not going to cut it. What you really want is you want 0.003.
Okay.
That is the best. And so that is what you want for your family. And then also you need a carbon VOC, like I was saying. And it's really, some people have hybrid carbon, and it doesn't contain something called, I mean, I'm going to get really geeky here,
Yeah, keep going.
potassium permanganate in it. And so potassium permanganate is something like, it's an expensive carbon. That's what we have in AirDoctor, and it removes formaldehyde. So as we know, formaldehyde is one of the things that off gas from beauty products. I'm just going to toss that out there because we know about that. And so if you're not taking the formaldehyde out with a carbon filter, like, what are you doing? I mean, a girl can't blow dry her hair without off gassing some sort of formaldehyde, and so it's like, or paint their nails. So this is a real, like, basic thing,
Yeah.
that formaldehyde is off gas from just about everything in our homes. And if your carbon filter isn't addressing it, then it's just not doing the job. And so 0.003 microns, it's 100 times more powerful than the HEPA filters you're going to find at, like, at those, $100. And then there's some really expensive air purifiers out there that are beautiful. Yeah, but do they work?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, which is always the greatest question is like, hey, just because something has a high price tag, does it actually work? Does it perform? Does it have actual test data that you can go look up and look at that shows, hey, this is doing what it does. Actually, someone said this in the comments, so I'll let you speak to this if you're open to it.
Sure.
A gentleman, I think it. Well, I don't know their username, but I have a molecule. Is that good? I have had it for 2 years.
I mean, there's some question about molecule and their efficacy. So, like I said before, they're a beautiful unit. They have a high level of industrial design. They're gorgeous, but I don't believe that they remove particles down to 0.003 microns. And so that zero point 0.3 micron, that HEPA standard, is just not enough. And so I think that is, especially in today's day and age, like these fires that we just had in Los Angeles, your 0.3 filter isn't going to do much for you. So you really want to make sure, like I said, you have a thick, dense carbon filter and a HEPA filter that removes down to 0.003 molecules. And like, look, like people buy beautiful shoes. They might not be the most comfortable, but we buy them, right? But
Yeah.
like when it comes to our health, like I was talking about this the other day. I was like, I don't discriminate, but when it comes to our health and just the situation we have here in the United States with the microplastics, with the volatile organic compounds, with these like incessant disasters we keep having, these spills like chlorine explosions, hurricanes, fires, city fires. I mean, we don't want to be breathing that stuff. And you want to make sure like I mean, the conversation really has changed here. Like we're an LA-based company. We're here. Like we're here for LA. We're going to help rebuild Los Angeles, and we're going to address all the contaminants that are in the air as we rebuild here. And but you really need to address the volatile organic compounds. That's what's doing the most damage to us. That's what's causing the Alzheimer's. That's what's having causing a heart disease. That's what's causing the cognitive impairment, the hormone disruption, the phthalates, all
Mhm.
these things. Like it's these VOCs, and no one's talking about that. So I'm talking about it and I'm really
Yeah.
passionate about it.
Yeah.
Especially for someone who really, like, I mean, it's taken me 10 years to kind of work through my toxic burden. And look, like the body's amazing. I had, severe osteoporosis. I no longer have that. There was years there that I couldn't go out and be active, and I had to do PT and all this stuff. But I'm healthy as I can be today. So these changes, these foundational changes, are really key.
I dig it. I dig it. On a lighter note, any good sources where that you know of that people can go, and if they want to actually read about some of the stuff that you're talking about, would you recommend any places for them to go dive into to read about? Because
Oh,
I know some
wow.
people say, "Oh yeah, you're saying these things, but where's the? Can I go read about it? I want to see with
Oh,
my own eyeballs."
sure. I mean, so here in LA, like everyone kind of like it had nothing to do with me. The Clean Air Coalition, there's a company called an outfit. I think it's a 501(c). It's a charity called the Clean Air Coalition. And they came in like and they were new to me. I just kind of was introduced to them myself. And they were like preventing the disaster after the disaster. And they really put out and published some really specific insights on air quality and just how like the air quality indexes and all this stuff that we think like when someone on the news is like the air safe, go run, or go outside and play, and then you learn that they don't even have a measurement for for volatile organic compounds. And I was even talking about it, these things that you can't see, it
Yeah.
doesn't even measure it.
Wow.
Right. And so we're just so hoodwinked. So I think the Clean
Yeah.
Air
Yeah.
Coalition is a really great place. And I think, there's a lot of great research on air quality. I mean, air pollution is one of the largest killers of people in the world. And we just don't talk about it. So the more you research, like knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is, it's like as you detox at home, when you have pure air in your household, you're going to really feel the difference.
Awesome. So, on a lighter note, are you reading any cool books
Me?
lately? Yeah.
Oh
Do you like to
God, what
read,
am
or are
I
you more of like
reading?
a listener?
I'm more of a listener. Like,
Yeah.
I think that I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately,
Okay.
and And I think that like there's so many different trains of thought on health and life. And so it's really kind of just interesting to like hear people talk and ramble.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also I just read a really good book called Grit. It's all just about like, bootstrap type mentality and doing what other people don't do to get to where other people can't get to. I feel like, you really need to figure things out for yourself. And, like as we know, like the media is just all different medias are saying completely different things.
Yeah,
And like, who knows? You know what I mean? I mean, let's just unplug and,
yeah.
do your own research and, form your own thoughts and opinions.
That's a book you
No,
wrote?
I didn't write it. It's called Grit. I
Oh,
don't know who the
oh,
author is, but it's all
okay.
about,
I was like, oh, oh, why did you
Grandma
tell me you wrote a
Carol.
book?
I want to,
Yeah,
no, I didn't write it, but Grandma Carol is asking about how I cured my bones from osteoporosis. So, like, I'll tell you,
oh, yeah.
yeah, I really was very specific about removing the toxic burden from my life. So I purified my water. I purified my air, and I actually like stopped working in my career. I was in the beauty business. I literally would have fragrance parties where I would just inhale fragrances, artificial fragrances all day long. I was a part of the problem. And I removed myself from that environment. I purified my air, purified my water, and make sure, like, pretty devout as it comes to organic, farm raised, that type of eating. And then I do a lot of strength training. So, I had to really make some real big pivots
Hmm.
to turn it around, but I was able to.
Yeah. And I think learning techniques also mitigate how you respond to stress, whether
Yeah.
it be doing things like because things like the fascial maneuvers or these simple movements
Yeah.
can be done even if you don't have much movement in your body right now. Even kind of sitting down, if you're you can do it even laying down, you get a little bit of twist in your body. They can help start to put the body in a state to open up and create flow again. And again, because your air breathing is one of the you die very quickly without breathing. So if you can start to remove the extra stressor of that air, my friends out there listening to this, and as as you watch these replays and see these things cut up, your air quality is so key because you're doing it all day long. 3,000 gallons of air per day, which is insane to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, I think like as a mom, and as someone who's
Yeah,
just been really committed to my family and to people, like I love my people. I just think it's just really important when you really start to get the knowledge of things that are really harming people. And I read all these studies and like we just don't realize that we're breathing 3,000 gallons of air a day. Like it's just mind bending. I mean, it's like 20 to 30,000 breaths a day. So, as many of those as possible should be as pure as possible so the body can detox.
yeah, yeah. Otherwise, otherwise. Helen, I know you have to jump, I believe, right? You have to hop off into, and then we're close to that. So, I would love to give you, if you have a few more minutes, kind of give you just a final like word, and then if you can stay on with us just for a few
Yeah,
moments.
I'm here.
I want to basically, I sometimes do this at the beginning, but I tend to love to do this at the end. I want to do like a sync out,
Okay.
where we actually kind of just like harmonize ourselves with some breath. Speaking of breath, but I'd love for you just to give some last words, where to grab AirDoctor from, what to grab, and again, and just please reiterate because I know some people are just tuning in, but for you, those guys, people who are just tuning in, this will be reposted within about 2 to 3 hours of this live broadcast. All the pertinent links and everything is going to be listed in the caption below. And all of us, so everyone out there who's in our audience, you'll also receive a giant email blast about all this. So you can just check it out there. If you did miss the live broadcast, it will be reposted so you can watch it on humangarage.tv and also here on our main channel. But go for it, Helen.
Yeah, I mean, so we love to partner with people like you at Human Garage to really educate. Like our number one thing is education and just sharing information, and that's how this whole brand Air Doctor came about. Is really an information share. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on to just share some information with everybody and talk a little bit about myself and what we're doing. And we just really believe that everyone has the right to pure, clean air. Like it's just a fundamental right as humans that the air we breathe is as clean as possible. And so that's really what gets us out of bed every day. So when you look to the site, like I'm sure we're going to have a link here. When you look at the site, I really make sure that where you sleep, the air is as pure as possible. It's the most important place to have an air purifier. And my favorite is our original one. It's called the AirDoctor 3500. You can pick it up. You can move from room to room. If you don't know which one to buy, I always say start with that. And then, I think that, what we were talking about earlier, like make sure that, if you're in the market for an air purifier, look at the site. Make sure that the science is there. They post their studies, they post their clinicals, they post stuff, and they share it with you. And so 0.003 microns for ultra HEPA filters, that's what you're looking for, and a really dense carbon filter. And from that, like you can follow us at AirDoctor. You can find me at Helen Christoni. I'm always available to answer questions.
I love it. And folks, if you want to purify your air, go over to our website, humangarage.net. Just click the link there. It'll take you directly to the site. You'll be able to grab a hold of either a smaller unit or go crazy and buy a gigantic unit, the 5,000. 3,500, the 5,000 are both incredible. We have two of them. We have a 35 and a 5,000. And we're actually outfitting one of our other locations, one of our other permanent locations where our team goes in Vancouver with 3 units, just because it's a huger space. And we want to make sure that each place that we go to has the air taken care of, because we do a lot of breathing. We do a lot of breathing, to say it mildly. But everyone, we're going to tune out with each other. This is something that we typically do when we start meetings, but I think it's also really cool to end a meeting doing the same thing, to reharmonize our conversation, reharmonize our bodies, reharmonize our frequencies, because everything is frequency. Two little housekeeping things. If you guys want to take your skill sets with fascial maneuvers, I highly recommend jumping into our coaching program. By doing that, not only are you going to uplevel your skills, you're also going to learn about all the cool things that we recommend to optimize your experience. Now, yes, you can heal your body without adding tons of supplements. You can heal your body without adding all these devices. But if you can, you're going to accelerate your journeys. You're going to accelerate your whole disposition by taking these extra stressors out: toxic air, water, adding certain supplementation on your journey in that can help accelerate it. And you get to learn all these things in a deeper level and how they correspond to your body through our coaching program. Go over to humangarage.net. If you've got questions for me personally and want to connect with me, you can do so at pulseoflife.co or Aaron Mathias the Purpose. You can connect to anyone on our team by joining our beautiful private app, and also do a 28-day reset while you're at it. Okay, so that's the things I mentioned through each conversation. And we've been talking with Helen from AirDoctor today. Uh, highly, highly recommend. And one of my personal favorite things about AirDoctor is the transparency and the education component. Um, this is part of the reason we decided to collaborate, partner, bring them into the fold of what we do, because for us it's so, so, so important that there's a million choices out there, but those million choices are not created equal. And we only want to bring products, services, things to all of you that pass the mustard, basically, right? Of being clean, being concise, being transparent, being available to actually answer questions, and using the highest quality to manufacture or produce what they do. Just like supplements, my friends, there's a million supplements, but you look at the supplements and do some research, you'll find that there's vast differences in the quality, the quantity, and what you actually need. And it's the same with a product like an air filter. And to us, AirDoctor is one of the most incredible, if not the most incredible, for where it's at. So go out and grab one and let's sync out. So what we're going to do, and if you're driving and listening to this, do not do this part. Please do not do this part while you're driving, because you'll have to let go of the steering wheel, and I'm not responsible for that. If you need to do it with us, pull over, park on the side of the road safely. You're going to take your right hand and stick it underneath your left armpit, and your left hand is going to go on your right shoulder, and you're going to pull your right shoulder over to the left and simply rotate your head looking off to the right. And we're going to take 6 breaths together. I'm going to count the breaths off as we take each one, and then we're going to say adios. Now, the first breath, I'm actually going to blow a frequency of 528 hertz. This is the frequency of love. And I'm going to use a little device called the Love Tuner, which is fun to do with. So here we go. Get into your twist. Let's take the first breath. Second breath. And you can do your breathing in through the nose, out through the nose, or in through the mouth, out through the mouth, whichever you prefer. Third breath. Fourth. Fifth. And sixth. Hmm. And just come on back. That always makes me feel super groovy. And hopefully you were breathing clean air, folks. Helen, any last words?
No, thank you so much for having me on. Love you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And hey, we'll see you soon. I think we'll be back in LA shortly.
Awesome.
Actually, you should connect. I'll DM you. You should connect with Gary. He's going to be out there over the next few days.
Will
Sweet
do.
deal.
Thanks, you guys.
Everyone, thank you for joining us. This will be reposted. All the pertinent links. Watch out for it. And if you don't catch the repost, um, check out our email blast regarding all things air quality. See y'all soon. Adios. Oh, by the way, folks, before it slips my mind, we are transferring everything over to, slowly but surely, a dedicated channel to broadcast our longer form content, Human Garage TV. It's actually listed in our bio. Go up there and click it and follow it, because we're going to be reposting content like this over there. And we're also going to be giving an opportunity to all of our partners and the people we love a chance to come on and do deeper dives into these conversations. What's going to start to happen, just to give you a little precursor, everyone, is this is going to be an introduction, and then we're going to follow up with a few more conversations that you'll be able to tune in and learn even more, and just free form questions and dive deeper into these subjects about air quality and whatever subject we're talking about regarding your health. So go give it a follow, because we want to start being able to simultaneously broadcast there. So please go follow Human Garage TV. It's up and listed in our bio, and we'll see y'all soon. Adios. Bye, Helen.
Bye.